the events of the show, so to speak, and go from that direction. First of all, welcome everybody. My name is Ryan Mullins. I am the head of school here at Great Hearts Prairie View. And you are in the middle school kind of information session that we have with our families. I want to introduce a couple of team members, but before I do that, let's start with a couple of just kind of rules of engagement. You should be muted when you come into the event. If not, please make sure you stay muted throughout. Mr. LaPointe, who is our Director of Campus Operations, will be managing the chat. So if you have some questions, you can certainly put them in there, and we'll kind of go that direction. We're going to try to keep this under about an hour or so, I'll go through, talk a little bit, quick little just introduction of myself and my team. We'll talk briefly, kind of do a survey of the curriculum, talk briefly about school culture a little bit, and then we solicited some questions, and so we've got quite a few of those, and so I want to save time for that as well. And then if we have time, we'll hit a few of them in the chat box also. When I go kind of to the question section, I'm just going to go down the list of the questions that the parents already given to us, and so we'll go ahead and go that direction. So first of all, I want to go ahead and start with a couple of my team members that we have on the call with us. First of all, we have Mr. David LaPointe, who is our Director of Campus Operations.
Hello.
Mr. LaPointe will actually be moving into an assistant head of school position for next year. We also have with us Mrs. Leah Pittsinger.
Good evening.
Mrs. Pittsinger is currently a second grade lead teacher. She'll be moving into an academic dean position next year for us. We also have Mrs. Morgan Marcantel on the call.
Hi.
And she is our Director of Community Engagement, kind of new to the team. I think she's been with us about a month or so, and so she's doing a fabulous job. And then we also have Mrs. LaArnie Koo.
Hi.
And Mrs. Koo is our SPED coordinator, who's been with us, of course, all year, part of the leadership team, and does a great job as well. Quick biographical sketch real quick on myself. And so we did actually launch Prairie View this year. And so we are a K-3 academy, of course, expanding to K through 8th grade next year. This will be something like my 21st or 22nd year as a head of school. I've been with Great Hearts here in North Texas for about 2 years now. But for the last probably 21 years, I was a teaching head of school at a classical Christian school up in Oklahoma. And so working with great parents, working with faculty, building school culture, curriculum. I've been doing this for quite some time at this point. I was a teaching head of school as well. And so I actually taught middle school, high school. And this is actually the first year that I have not run a school and taught at least one class. And so I always taught at least 2 classes. So it's been a little bit different. Not necessarily being in the classroom this year because I've always taught at least 1 or 2 classes. I did teach generally 8th grade to senior, typically in like an Algebra 1, taught some of the sciences as well, things of that nature. And so I haven't just been running schools. I've been in the classroom, for over 2 decades at this point. I also was head football coach for about 15 years. And so I certainly do appreciate athletics. And of course, obviously, since I coached football, that's always my first love. But I certainly enjoyed that. So again, have spent over 2 decades, not just working K through 12 schools, but spending a lot of time specifically with 6th through 12th graders. Whether it's in a coaching capacity, whether it's teaching in the classroom, whether it's, college counseling, those types of things. I've been doing this for quite some time myself. And so let's go ahead and kind of move into a little bit about the campus real quick, a little bit about the growth pattern, where it's going to be headed, and then we'll start kind of getting into a curriculum survey. And so as I mentioned, we launched in a temporary site this year. If you go to our website, it actually says we're located in Keller. Next year, we're going to be here for about 2 more months. Next year, of course, we will be in Northern Fort Worth. We have a brand new campus we're building. Mr. LaPointe will put the address in the chat for us. The leadership team actually just had a tour out there today. And so they're making really good progress. They will be finished, I was told today, by July 5th. And so the building will be complete, will be ready. So next year we'll be moving over right off of 287. And of course, we are expanding K through 8th grade. And then, of course, the pattern from there is the year after that, we'll add the 9th grade, year after that, 10th grade. And so we'll caterpillar the growth vertically, as well as expanding sections at the bottom grades, if that makes sense. And so we'll be adding grades across the top, and then, of course, adding sections as well at the bottom. And so those will caterpillar up as well. In about 3 years or so, we have a phase 2 building that will also be started on that same 18 acres that we're currently at. The phase 2 building will be the 9th through 12th grade components. And so the plan is in about 5 years, the facilities will be completely built out K through 12. And the student experience will also be complete K through 12 as well. And so in 5 years, all that growth should be there. And so that's what that looks like. Let's go ahead and move into here for a few minutes, just run through a little bit about, okay, 6th through 8th grade curriculum specifically, just hit some of the high points, a couple of the key things of, okay, what is Lit Comp supposed to do? What does it look like? There's some information that probably everybody has, the classics to keep, things like that. I'm not going to go through that list. That stuff is in an information packet unless there's a specific question, but I believe everybody has that. So I don't want to be redundant with that. But we do want to talk a little bit about, okay, what does that look like? What are some expectations? With students coming in from different places, that type of thing. How do we get them on board? And probably before we kind of get into, since we're kind of in growth and that type of a thing and curriculum, I'm going to go ahead and kind of segment that in there. And so, one of the key questions that comes up is, okay, so you're launching a brand new campus, right? And you have, individuals, families, faculty, right, from all over the country, and even in here in North Texas, coming to a different situation, different places, different backgrounds. How do you assimilate that? And I will say that's exactly what we've done this past year, K through 3rd grade. It's been a great experience. Our scholars have done a fabulous job. I think our parent surveys have come back really well. And so next year is not the first time that we've had to worry about that, right? And so this is kind of like launch 2.0 for us. And so my team and I kind of got some practice this year on what that looks like. But at the end of the day, the way that works is, and so as you get into this curriculum that we're going to talk about, there are fundamental baseline skills that the faculty start from and build from there. And so the target always stays the target. I tell everybody, whether it's academics, whether it's behavior, whether it's how we address each other, the target never changes. This isn't a moving target. The target is always robust, rich curriculum, great student engagement principles relative to teaching. And so that's always excellence for us, never changes. And it doesn't make a difference where students are at. Now, what's key about that is this: the key to making sure students have the support they need to hit those targets lies in precisely what my faculty and I are designed and put here to do, which is great instruction, great curriculum, and then implementing that with really great student engagement principles is how we're able to get students up to where that needs to be. And so with that, the first year, the curriculum looks a little bit different than maybe it does year 8, right? Even this year, it's the same. It's kind of that same way. We have to move a little bit slower than maybe it would look K8. Or in 8th grade. And so it works the same way. We start, for example, with Lit Comp with basic ideas on sentence structure. What does that look like? We make sure everybody has that fundamental skill to move forward, and then we begin to accelerate the pace a little bit. So the key really lies into not necessarily the content. I know it's really easy to go, boy, that reading list looks really tough. That looks like pretty, high-end stuff. The key thing at the end of the day is, who do you have in the classroom, right? Can they bring these students with them? Can they bring everybody with, here's where our starting point is. Now, how do we engage and build skills so we're bringing the whole class with us? We also have, of course, a full intervention team. And so if there are students that need extra support, again, we don't move the target. We add additional support to make sure that those students have the skills and the growth they need to hit that target. And so it's worked very well this year. We're going to roll that same concept with us into next year. And so as you go through the reading list, as we talk a little bit about things like Latin and some of these types of things, the key is really the teacher in the classroom and what type of training does the school give their teachers in order to make sure they have the skills to be great instructors in the classroom. And so that's really the key from that standpoint. So a couple of things we're just going to go through a little bit of a survey here. And so our lit comp, and so our lit comp in 6th through 8th grade. So its primary function, of course, when you talk about literature, when you talk about humane letters, when you talk about lit comp, the number one goal is always great literature in front of our students to make sure that they're shaped into beautiful things. We love beautiful things, true things, good things. And so the literature we put in front of them that we study is literature about human flourishing. It's literature that has been passed down for centuries, questions about what does it mean to be a human being on the planet. So its number one goal from K all the way through 12th grade, when you talk about literature, the number one goal is always shaping our individuals, our scholars, into virtuous human beings. That's the number one goal always. At a practical level, our 6th through 8th grade HL, or our 6th through 8th grade lit comp really is designed to bridge, kind of form the bridge between 9th through 12th grade HL, humane letters, and then our K through 5 ELA program. And so lit comp helps to make sure that our 6th through 8th grade students begin to get some of those great individual responsible skills that's required once they jump into like a 9th grade HL. And so 9th grade HL humane letters, it's a very seminar approach. In other words, there's a lot of discussion. Students are bringing ideas and from the works. There's annotations. There's great discussion. But for that to take place, they have to have this great lit comp foundation so that some of that mechanics is put into place. And so our lit comp is basically made up of 3 components. It has a literature component. Now, in literature is also poetry. And so the Prairie View curriculum from kinder all the way through 12th grade, we have great poetry in front of our scholars all the way across the board. So when we talk about literature, it's not just, okay, where's poetry in this? If you've seen your classics to keep or a full reading list, there's poetry in there. So our students getting poetry from kinder all the way through. Matter of fact, my team, there's a couple of us, we were in 1st grade. And so we have recitations. 1st grade was doing recitations with this really beautiful work of poetry today. And so our scholars are engaging in poetry, not just literary works. It might be, kind of come off my notes, just a fuzz here. Our literature and most of our history is what we call primary text driven, right? In other words, when you get into lit comp, when you get into HL, in the upper grammar school, we don't have a literature textbook that has little excerpts of literary works. We actually go to the sources themselves. And so we have the classics to keep, of course, that your students will buy. They're going to annotate in these great works. They're going to make notes. And so we're a primary text driven. Our lit comp, humane letters, K through 5th grade ELA, it's primary text driven, as in we actually go to the works themselves. And what that looks like is, in kindergarten, it's my father's dragging grasshopper in the road. As you move up into the middle school, you have things like Tolkien, Shakespeare. As you get up into HL, we'll have, Boethius, we'll have Plato, Augustine, great works by Shakespeare. Again, beautiful poetry. Again, going to the original works, the Federalist Papers, the Constitution of the United States. We go to the actual works themselves. And so our K through 12th grade literature history is primary text driven. And so certainly designed to form a human being, and then also serving as this bridge. And again, the 3 components, we've got this literature component. We also have this grammar component, right? Understanding that great articulation, eloquence was one of the key skills that we seek to develop in our scholars. The classical education does this. And so eloquence is not just even in how we speak, but also in how we write. And so grammar is a key component of that. We diagram sentences. We do this, those types of skills. Our students will diagram sentences, things of that nature. And then there's a focus on composition. So when we talk about our lit comp, It's basically a three-prong attack: literature, poetry, grammar component, and then composition. How do we compose? When you talk about composition, for us, it's mastery of what we call the 5-paragraph essay. And so they'll start in 6th grade, beginning to work on how do I master writing a 5-paragraph essay? How do we, what does a great thesis statement look like within each paragraph? Introductory paragraph, concluding paragraph, what is the body meant to do? And so within that, you'll see pieces of logic, the logic and the flow of composition. And composition, when you talk about 5-paragraph essay, really designed to just be able to analyze and study the rhetoric of written works, right? And so again, when we talk about composition, not just in how to do it, but then how to be able to mimic great works. So then as they move up into that HL, that 9th through 12th grade HL, and they're doing a lot more writing, and they're doing a lot more speaking about these great works, that they have a little bit of a command of the logic and rhetoric and the analysis of those pieces. Mathematics, again, just like we saw with Lit Comp, there's a consistent theme from kinder all the way through 12th grade. In mathematics, it works the same way. So we don't have these little bits and pieces of, K through 2 works like this, and 9 through 12 works like this. And so across the board, number one thing we look to try to develop in our students is the idea of love of mathematics, right? And so from that, we talk about how do we develop mathematical explorers? And that really starts with, in K through 5, we talk about Singapore. As we get up to 6th through 12th grade, we use Carnegie Mathematics as the actual formal curriculum. They both have a very similar vein to how they work, which is we work the fundamentals of mathematics through the language of mathematics. In other words, we start with this amazing, students would call it cool. We would say this beautiful, awe-inspiring, really fun, concrete thing. The conversation. Through this conversation, through this problem, through this axiom, we begin then to develop definitions that we see in mathematics. We begin to develop postulates. We begin to develop principles, so that students can see that the principles, the axioms are actually rooted in the language of mathematics, as opposed to what everyone's educational background, is. The way I was, the way I was taught back in the 80s. I've been around a bit. The way we were taught in the 80s is here's a formula, here's a principle, memorize the formula, here's 35 problems, apply the formula, it plugs something out, then you move on to the next one, right? The problem with that is if you get bored with just that, in other words, if there's not some really fun, awe-inspiring language through which that works, that can get really tedious, and you tend to, again, lose that student engagement principles. So at the end of the day, we really, if people say, so what's that mathematics program designed to do? Mathematical explorers, students that love mathematics rather than hate algebra, right? And so it's not the content that's the problem. It's not the discipline that's the problem. The issue is, how do we utilize our student engagement principles to make sure that we're presenting something that's amazing about this cosmos, right? You walk out the door, there's a lot of amazing things about this world. Physical, mechanical, beautiful principles of science, principles of mathematics. And so we want to make sure that students see that these are not just these isolated mechanical pieces of things, but it really helps to define this thing we call this world that we live in, and it's beautiful, right? And so we want to make sure we keep in front of our students these beautiful things. And of course, then through that, the principles, the definitions, those types of things are certainly anchored in that reality. Moving, of course, into science. Science in the classical tradition, we call it science today. It's really natural philosophy, which just simply means wisdom of the natural world, right? And again, we kind of use the same methodology with our science. We talk about this beautiful, amazing thing. In 3rd grade, you might bring a beautiful frog or a beautiful lizard in front of a bunch of students. And when you do that, the students will gather around. You'll hear, right, sounds of, oh, this is amazing. Now, students will say things like, oh, cool, neat, fun, beautiful, he eats flies, something like that. And so we use the same principle, just moving up into the junior high and high school, same type of a concept. We present in front of our students amazing, beautiful things about the cosmos. And then in that, we see things like the laws of thermodynamics, right? Rather than just learn learn the laws, plug numbers in, and it shoots something out. But we lose track of this thing of, wait a minute, doesn't this actually get anchored into this beautiful thing we call a cosmos? And what's the relationship there? That's a key part of how do we teach, right? And again, when you talk about mathematics, when you talk about science, we use the same principle that we use relative to this year with K through third grade. Understanding that we have people from all over the place coming into something new, we start with fundamental principles and then work from there and make sure all those students are with us. Again, the key really isn't the content. How hard is the content? The key really is what kind of instructional support are they getting in the classroom? That's really the key thing. Great instruction brings those students with us. In science, we approach science from this perspective. The formal definition of science, and I was a biotechnology undergrad at Oklahoma State University. And so one of the first things we talked about was the formal definition of science. In other words, science has to meet some qualifications. And so for us, science is that which is reproducible, has to be measurable, right? And then we have to be able to make sure we talk about being measurable, repeatable, and reproducible. Within that, then, of course, is this idea of the scientific method. We were testing theories. I was having a conversation with a parent not too long ago. We were talking about just science and theories. And at the end of the day, science is all theories until it's not, right? For example, I would always kind of use this as a key, a key junior high principle. When you talk about, for example, the theory of atomic structure, yeah, which is a fairly new theory. Whereas, many years ago, we used the plum pudding model, and we said, oh yeah, atomic structure is this little gelatin that's got little, charges inside of it. And now we have the electron cloud model. And so when you talk about science, science is all theories until it's not. It's this, what does the physical world look like when you talk about, experiments, when you talk about editing our theories, when you talk about studying this beautiful thing in the cosmos. And so certainly science is a component of theories because all we have is to build on those, even in the history, when you look at the history of scientific thought. And so certainly a key part of what we do. Our foreign language, and so we are a classical language first school. And so we do start Latin from kindergarten. We do Latin from kinder through ninth grade. Our plan moving forward, of course, with that is to introduce Greek. As far as a modern language, we're still looking at probably Italian or French is kind of the thing this is where we're headed with that. Couple of things about our foreign language. What's its fundamental purpose? Why do we study it? And there's a lot to say here as we move into July and August and we start having, coffees with the headmaster, stuff like that. Probably one of the first things I'll do pretty quickly is look at, an apology of Latin. Why do we study it? It's a key component of what we do. I'm a huge believer in the value of the classical languages for a number of reasons, well beyond the 3 minutes we have here to discuss it. But the number one reason why we study foreign languages of any kind, whether it's classical, whether it's modern, is that these great works that we interact with tend to be written in Latin, tend to be written in Greek, tend to be written in Italian or French. And so what it allows us to do first and foremost is it allows us to go directly into the original language of these amazing works that have been passed down for some of them over 1,000 years, right? That we're still referencing as having a part in the conversation of what does it mean to be a human being on the planet. And I think every time I say that, I'm always a little bit in awe because when you think about a text that's been passed down through cultures over centuries, right? Over thousands of years, and we still reference it. I think of the writings of Augustine. I think of the writings of Plato, individuals that we still go back to those ideas and discuss them in terms of what does it mean to shape a culture? How does it shape us in how we interact with each other? We're still reading texts that have been around for, hundreds and hundreds of years. However, they were written in a different language than typically what most of us are able to engage in. our scholars will have the background. Our language program gives them the background to be able to read in those great texts in the original language. I'm always kind of amazed. The same root when you talk about translations, right? So the root for translation actually happens to be the same root as trader. And so I listened to one speaker once. He said, really, when you're talking about a translation, if you wanted to go to the root of what does a translation actually mean, it kind of means to like betray the original. And so again, we want our students to go back to these great works, to engage in these great works in their original language. And that's the primary reason why we study the languages we do. Now then, there's all kinds of course, things, and they're not terrible reasons why. You talk about SAT scores, ACT scores, the data's all there and what the languages do as far as that. I think for me, the next most important piece when you talk specifically about Latin and Greek is that they're very, very, very precise and very artistic languages. They teach our students to think in a very schematic, very precise way. When you think about how do I analyze language, this begins to give them those skills. We'll talk more about that, in the coming months, things of that nature. And then the last one we'll hit there is history. And so when we talk about history, we study history as in how society moves from the past to the present. Again, a lot to be said there. We tend to come and evaluate history in terms of an empathetic a point of view, as opposed to not necessarily moralism or a judgment, as in, oh, they did that, we should not do that. And it's always interesting when you think about that. I sometimes, I'm kind of guilty of sometimes myself when I read historical text and I think, oh, that's a dumb thing to do, or boy, you shouldn't have done that. But it's kind of easy for us to think about in terms of now. But sometimes I wonder what happens 150 years down the road. Ryan Mullins will no longer be sitting here. I wonder what people will read about our epic, right? How were they read about what did we do with our time here? What did it look like? Those types of things. And so we really approach history from an empathetic standpoint, as in not moral judgment necessarily. And so that's a key part. We do have in the middle school, we do have music. We also have art, and we do PE as well. These are technique class. They're also theory class. They're also theorists class. And so we talk about great musicians. We talk about notes. I am not a musical person at all, so I don't pretend to be one. My background was athletics, pretty much all I ever did. And so the extent of music I know is I push my Spotify play button. I was going to say I pushed my iPod play button, but I'm not sure too many people are like, iPod, what's one of those now? I will say I actually have 2 iPods, just to date myself, and I actually have the original. I'm not sure if anyone else does. We'll probably take a poll. I actually have one of the big ones. I don't know if anyone. It's about 3.5 inches long, and it's about 1/2 inch thick. I actually have one, and you don't like. It actually has this little wheel. You turn the wheel. Mine made a clicking noise, click, 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 and had a button in the middle. And by the way, it still works. I don't know how old this thing is. I don't know, decades probably at this point. It actually still works. I can play music on it. Anyway, so I push my Spotify button. That's the extent of my music, which is good for our scholars, that we go out and we hire great musicians. And so when you talk about teachers 6th through 12th grade, how do I hire? We hire content specialists, and then we talk to them about what does great student engagement look like. And so when you talk about, okay, so what type of person is teaching music? It's going to be someone that has a music background. It's going to be a music degreed individual, someone not like Ryan Mullins. I think I was talking to one of my teachers this week, and she mentioned something, a pitch and a note. I know the 2 words. I have no idea what either one meant. And so I learned something about music because apparently pitch and a note, I'm probably going to butcher it. A pitch is like a reflection of, or a note is a physical representation of a pitch or something. Our students learn these types of things. And so the theory of music is something that they'll talk about. What does the notes look like, scales, things of that nature. And then also, of course, theorists. Art works the same way. It's not just manufacturing some pieces, but it's also, what about techniques of shading and sketching and drawing? And again, I am not an artist in that respect. And so it's always fun to sit in those classes and listen to art teachers talk about, hey, there's a right way that we hold a pencil, for example. There's a right way of shading, right? And so our students learn techniques of shading, techniques of how you hold a pencil, what the lines look like, things of that nature. PE is the same way. We talk about, for example, hand-eye coordination. How do you develop proper ways of movement, of lifting, things of that nature? And so our 6th through 8th grade students will have art, they'll have music, they'll have PE. Those are all part of that curriculum. Again, we look at what does it mean to flourish as a human being. All those are a key part of that. Move into the last kind of couple bits, a little bit about school culture. And so school culture, of course, is grounded as a classical school, is grounded in the cardinal virtues. Out of these, we look for, okay, what does that look like in the hallways? What does that look like from my 13-year-old son in a classroom or engaging in conversation with his colleagues? And so we really look for 3 key physical traits, ways of acting in our students. These 3 things are anchored in the cardinal virtues, but we talk about personal responsibility, right? Homework helps do that. Classroom time helps do that. How do I manage my course load helps do that. We talk about having a sense of duty towards others. To me, that's always a big one, because the reason that I'm in Texas is because of that. I had a job. I tell people I came down here for a vision. I came down here for a dream. I didn't come down here for a job. I have jobs back in Oklahoma. I didn't come down here for money. I can make money in Oklahoma. So I didn't come down here for any of these things, but I truly believe in how do we feel a sense of duty to those around us? What about our culture? What kind of message are we teaching our young people about being civically engaging? Right? And so this one has a special meaning for me just because of the fact that I've spent most of my life going, wait a minute, is this world just about, Ryan and my family and making sure that we're pretty comfortable and okay? What's my role towards the community? What's my role towards how do I take beautiful things and engage it civically? And so we want to develop in our students that, hey, it can't just be about you. You have to understand that we've got human beings around us, and we want to contribute and be a conduit of blessing and support to those that are around us. So what's our sense of duty to others? What does it look like? So in 3rd grade, for example, look something. If a student falls down, do you laugh or do you help them up, right? What about in junior, middle school? You're going down the hallway, someone drops a book in the middle of the rush. Do you help them pick them up, or do you kick the books and stumble over them, stuff like that? How do we treat one another? How do we help each other? How do we support one another? You don't have to be best friends with each other, but we do need to realize, hey, you know what? It's okay to support and be about someone else also. Even though you come from different perspectives and there's tons of different types of people coming in, how do we treat one another in the hallways? How do we treat one another on the athletic field? How do we treat one another when we're in, a theater troupe, things of that nature? These are a key part of what we're looking for. And then, of course, the 3rd one for me is gratitude, right? And if you've probably been, I'm sure probably everyone has, that's probably why you're on this call. These are 3 things we don't see in culture much today from adults, like 35-year-olds, let alone 15-year-olds, let alone 12-year-olds, right? A sense of responsibility for what's in my hand right now. A sense of, do I have a sense of duty to the person next to me? Do I have gratitude about the things that my parents do for me and my teachers and the things I have access to? This is, in the United States of America, I sometimes kind of shudder at the fact that our young people really don't realize what's been handed to them and the beautiful opportunities we have in this country. I don't think our schools do a good enough job saying, it's okay to be gracious and to respect what parents put into me as a 12-year-old, what they provide, when that's not something that's just automatically bestowed to a human being. And so these are 3 things that we really tend to focus on relative to, okay, what does student culture look like anyway? These are 3 key pillars of how do we want our, 12-year-olds handling each other in the hallways, for example, in the classroom, things of that nature. Teaching, so there's always conversations, teachers, how do you get great ones? And so how do you keep them? And that's always a difficult topic. And I think one of the approaches we tend to do at our campus, which I kind of just mentioned it. So because I believe in a vision, because I believe in a dream, because I believe in belief. I don't sell to my faculty. When I recruit faculty, when I hire faculty, I am not selling a job. Sometimes it's harder because there's a lot of people looking for a job, and that's okay. That doesn't certainly make them a bad person. That just means they're not really a good fit to work with Ryan Mullins and his team. Because I sell a vision. I sell a dream of something special. I sell a vision of we are about the families of Fort Worth, and our job centers around how are we a blessing to our families. And so right off the top, we've got a lot of our faculty coming back again next year. We have a couple of them that are moving out of state. But usually I think one of the benefits of that, there's some kind of not good benefits sometimes. It's harder to hire when you do that, by the way. If I can't just say, oh, here's a paycheck, here's what we're offering, because we hit pretty hard. This is not just a regular school. It's grounded in something other than you as a teacher, and it's grounded in how do you love our families. And it's not just something I say when I talk to parents. If you talk to any of my team members on this call right now, if you talk to any of my faculty, I probably have said it 8 billion times the last 10 months. It shapes all of our training. It shapes why we do. It provides the why of why we do what we do. And I'm going to come down here and do it, and you're going to entrust your precious family to us. We have to believe in something other than a job. And so, a lot of times parents, I'm just kind of concerned. What about turnover? Well, I mean, I can't demand a person do something. But to me, one of the benefits of me being about a vision, of selling a vision in our community, is it tends to kind of separate some of that off. And so the very first thing we always do is when I hire faculty, you can be assured. They have heard me say 1,000 times, if you're coming down here for a job, you should not come to my campus. And I tell them that the very first interview I have with them. I'm not afraid to tell candidates and tell teachers, look, if you don't understand what I am saying, you shouldn't come here. Because you're not going to like it, and you're not going to like working with my team. You're not going to like working with us. It's going to be uncomfortable for you. And everybody wants to be at a place where we're all going the same direction. And so when you talk about teaching, how do I keep them? How do we recruit? The first thing we have on the list, the first thing we start with our August or with our July OTAs or our faculty orientation, the first thing I start with is, look, ground zero here at Prairie View is we love our families. And we don't just say that, there has to be an action word to that. And for us, it's great instruction. So when we talk about great instruction, it's because we love our families, not great instruction just to say, oh, yeah, we want to be good teachers, right? It has to be more than that. It has to be grounded in something more than just, yeah, I want to be a good teacher. And so when we talk about teachers, when we talk about recruiting, when you talk about how do I keep them, well, the best way I keep them, and I've done this for 20 years now, this isn't like a new experiment here in Fort Worth. I've been doing this for a bit. The best way I keep teachers is I make sure when I recruit faculty, I'm selling a vision. That's all I'm selling. I'm not selling a job. I tell them if you look for a job, there's a lot better ones down the road. And because we're selling a vision, and because it's a vision of love, that means we require a lot out of our faculty, require a lot out of our team. It's a lot of training. And so if you really aren't, if that love of families really isn't authentic in you, you're going to get tired of my team and I, because we ride that vision awfully, awfully hard to our faculty. Teacher training, I'll hit that real quick, move into extracurriculars, and then I want to move into some questions. I'm pretty sure 15 minutes behind schedule at least. So we'll do what we can and go from there to get as much done as we can. I'm looking at the time at the bottom of my screen. I'm like, I think I'm supposed to be a 25-minute. Anyway, it is what it is. Teacher training for us. And so we're very, again, because we're serious about instructional quality, teacher training, what does that look like? We have professional development every Wednesdays. My academic leadership team and I, we are in every single classroom, a minimum of every single week. We meet with every single teacher every single week. These are coaching sessions. What do you need from us to do better? Here's a couple of things we're seeing in the classroom that we want to tweak. We have about 8 to 10 texts. They're actually sitting right over here next to me. I could pull them over. We have about 8 to 10 texts that we use at this campus that inform what does great teaching look like. So we don't just say great teaching because that's kind of up here. We actually have texts that talk about practices. What do practices in the classroom? What type of techniques do we use to engage our students? So there's actually practices with that. How do you build command of space? How do you build instructional rhythm? And so we actually go through some of that type of stuff. Extracurriculars, we are starting with 6 sports next year as the game plan, as well as vocal ensemble, as well as a stringed instrument. We might do a theater troupe also. And so, you know, the typical, I'll tell you, the typical, when you launch a campus, everybody says, okay, easy does it on the extracurriculars because you're going to run out of energy. However, I'm an older guy and I don't have all the rest of my life. So I'm like, hey, I don't have all day to launch a campus. We just got to do it. I like building student culture. I like building family culture. One of the best ways to do that is, what are we doing after Latin class, right? What about music? What about theater? What about eventually moving into quiz bowl and travel? What about athletics? So we want the full rounded experience. We don't want our students to have to say in 10th grade, man, I'd love to be part of a great theater troupe. I love this Latin, but it's not good. We want to offer the full student experience for all of our families, for all of our students. They shouldn't have to make a decision between a great classical education, a great student experience, and these great activities also. And so we want to make sure that one of our goals is we really want to flesh that out and make that available to all of our students. And again, it's the same kind of a concept. We want to do it really, really well. So we don't do things haphazardly. Sometimes parents might get a little antsy and go, Ryan, can we do this quicker? We want to make sure that we do it the right way. And sometimes the right way is block by block. But we will move into 6 sports next year. We're looking at girls volleyball, junior high boys flag football, boys and girls basketball, boys and girls soccer is where we're headed. Again, looking at maybe a small vocal group, small stringed instrument group. These are practices outside the normal classroom day, those types of things. But that's kind of where some of that extracurricular comes from. I hope I'm not talking too fast. I kind of talk fast anyway. And then when I see the time clock, I always get antsy, so I'm gonna take a deep breath. And so what I'm gonna do is, I've got a list of questions that parents have like emailed over to I think the main office. And I'm just gonna go real clinical one by one. And I'm gonna see how many I can hit here in the next 10 minutes. Is that okay? Everyone, is it thumbs up? Everybody good? Am I communicating okay? Is everybody thumbs up? Okay, good. Okay, excellent. Thank you. You can ask my faculty when I get into training. I really talk, it really speeds up really quick. I've been doing this for so long, you would think I'd be more aware of, hey, let's slow down. I don't know, you know, we're always trying to grow, so it is what it is. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through the list and I'll just read the question and we'll hit it real quick. One of the more popular questions is there a student portal or parent portal probably to keep up with grades? And so I will say that typically most Great Heart schools don't have this. We are trying to, at our campus, get that for next year. So some of these decisions are network decisions. So, you know, in case, I didn't quite hit this. So Prairie View, of course, is a member of a very great network called Great Hearts. They have classical charter schools in a number of states. We have a bunch of them in southern Texas as well as North Texas. So I say that to say this. There are some rules that I have to play by that I don't get to make. And so sometimes it is what it is. I will tell you this. I think I'm comfortable saying this because we're recording this, I think. So I think I'm comfortable. Yeah, Dave's getting nervous. He's like, oh, geez, what's he going to say? So probably of any school in the network, we are really big of how does this serve our families? How does it serve our families? How does it serve our families? And so we spend a lot of time, probably more time than we should, complaining to the network of we want to see something changed because it really isn't very flexible for our families. This is one of them. And so Mr. LaPointe and I just got out of a meeting about 2 weeks ago where I kept telling them, look, we need parent portals where parents can keep track of, they can help their students know how to manage that course load. But it's hard to do that if you don't know what's going on. And so we're really trying to, I don't want to promise it. I think they're going to let our campus have a parent portal where what I would like to see is you've got a password, you have a login, You can log into that thing 24/7. What does it show you? It shows you what they did in Latin today. It shows you what the Latin assignments are for the next 10 days coming up. It shows you when's the Latin test coming up. It shows you how did Susie or Johnny do on the last Latin test. You can set up reminders that if Johnny doesn't turn homework in, you get an automatic email blast sent to you. Or if there's a test grade below a 60, it automatically blasts an email to you. So we're trying to get that in play. I will say currently that function is not there, but I think they're going to let us have it. But certainly stay up on. We'll give you some more information on that. We talked a little bit how do we combine everybody coming from different backgrounds academically without shortchanging. Again, the rich curriculum always stays the rich curriculum. Great instruction's always great instruction. What's the difference? The difference is how do we teach in the classroom? The difference is how do we teach our faculty to make sure that you're bringing every student with you. And then, of course, we have these conversations about where we want to start that curriculum at. For year one, we'll probably start it at a little more of a foundational level, but probably build a little quicker once we get students into speed and going that fast. And so the support is there. The key of can my student get caught up? The key from the campus perspective that we're in charge of is great instruction, and the academic support is going to be there. Okay. And we did it this year. If you're going, well, that sounds like a great thing. Yeah, you could probably walk into our campus. Okay, we did it this year with, whatever, 150 students. Okay, and so it's done really well. So, and again, I've been doing this for quite some time. We talk about middle school sports. We talk about options and electives, chess, poetry, things of that nature. As you get up into the high school, we do want to kind of bloom out some more electives. What's that going to look like? It's going to be stuff like maybe a class on Latin poetry or Greek poetry or French poetry. It might be something like a more explicit logic class relative to programming. It still falls within the liberal arts tradition. And so just like everything else, we have philosophical fundamental beliefs by which everything else comes out of. And so the liberal arts tradition, which we've talked about in a different video, the liberal arts tradition, of course, is kind of like our guiding light, so to speak. And so we want to make sure that we honor that tradition relative to how does this shape a human being towards being able to engage liberty, right? We also have clubs after school, so chess club, things like that. These will certainly be options. These are driven by faculty. And so it's not something where a couple students get together and say, hey, we'd like to do this. Our clubs are faculty driven, like everything at the campus level, it's driven by faculty. And so there's clubs like they'll have a 6-week club maybe on medieval poetry or something like that, or perhaps a chess club. So there's certainly going to be avenues for that. Some of that is just about, okay, do faculty have time? Where's the interest there from our faculty? And then also, what about students' desire, weighing what students are looking for? And so some of that is, as we kind of get into the game, so to speak, being able to adjust a little bit on what are students and families looking for. And then we certainly want to be able to make sure that we can provide what that looks like. And so that's kind of how that tends to go. This is a universal question. So again, I've been doing this for over 20 years. And so everybody loves this. I wish there was like a red button answer. Average time spent on homework. I trust if you have more than one child, you realize the first one's not the same as the second one. And so that kind of goes back to my response. It depends. Student A, not the same student B. And so some of that is some students are faster at Latin translations than others. Some of them are faster at this than others. Some of that is just to student speed through the work. And so the textbook answer that everybody tends to give is 10 minutes per grade level. So if you're a 5th grader, you have about 45, 50 minutes. If you're, 9th grader, maybe an hour and 20 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes. Some of that is also seasonal. I would be surprised for it to be an hour and a half per night. It might ramp up a little bit around finals, right? As you get closer to finals, that workload's a little bit heavier. The other key ingredient, which is really, really big, we talked a little bit about it in the personal responsibility, but it's really about how each student learns how to manage their course load. When I worked at the private school, we had a curriculum that was very, very similar to what we're doing now. And when you have students come in, parents want to sit down, boy, it's rich, it's robust. I love it. I'm a little bit worried. I tell them, especially after like 15 years, and I'll tell you the same thing. In 20 plus years of doing this, I can't think of any case actually where a student could not do the work. Don't know I've seen one. I've seen plenty of students that would not do the work. And so sometimes that's kind of the difference. We want to make sure we're supporting you at the school level. We want to make sure the environment is conducive to the students having the quiet space and the quiet time to do that, that the support from the faculty is there for questions, that the support is there for tutoring. All of those are absolute options. What gets difficult is for us to sit over student A and say, I'm going to sit here until you do 5 problems. And you're talking about a 13-year-old young man, right? And so we want to make sure that we're partnering with you with the message of, look, you need to make sure that, for example, if you have 6 minutes where I finish Latin, maybe I have some of my lit comp and I have 6 or 7 minutes, and maybe I change gears and go to my lit comp for 6 or 7 minutes, rather than open up my schedule, play with my calendar a little bit, kind of look to see what I have going up, look at the clock, see how far lunch is from from us. Are we getting close? Use those 6 to 8 minutes to your advantage. If there's some tutoring time, take advantage of those tutoring times. Again, really taking responsibility as a young man or a young woman for, what about my education? How can I help contribute to that success? I can guarantee you the support from faculty, the support from our intervention team, the support from the teachers, the support from administration, the support for any young person to come into our campus and master the content will be there. That I can assure you. I can't assure every single family that your kid can do that. I have 5 kids of my own. They run me in circles as it is. I can barely keep up with my 5. And so I really can't, we don't want to get too far outside that realm. And so if the question really is what kind of support's going to be there, the support's going to be there. We have things built in place. We have tutoring opportunities built in place. The students will know. When we talk about student engagement principles, we foster part of that student engagement principles is it's okay to ask questions, right? And I get 6th through 8th grade. Again, I've done this for a bit. I get 6th through 8th grade. It's kind of like, I don't know about you, they're nervous about questions. Our faculty are trained in, hey, let's help solicit. Look as you go through the teaching, look and see, does it look like there's questions? Make sure you're investigating, explore those questions. Make sure you're engaging every student in the classroom environment. Let's keep going. Average time spent on homework. All that to say, it's very flexible on what homework looks like. With that being said, again, the fundamental goal for us is we want to support healthy families. My kids are all older, but when they were younger, I did not want my kids spending 2 hours up in their bedroom doing Latin translations every night. Because you know what that's not doing? Helping my family and I sit at a dinner table and be healthy. So I can assure you, this is not a school. It's like we're just going to pile homework on to pile homework on. We want to make sure our families have time to be families. And so the homework load, I don't feel like is gigantic at all. Again, we want to make sure that the faculty are doing what faculty do, which is make sure we're helping work through those homework questions, make sure we're helping work through what's great teaching and content looking like. And so that really, again, comes down to our practices in the classroom. Uniform guide, there's a uniform guide that's already been published. I believe Dave is on the website. Yes, the uniform guide is on the website. I think he's going to put it, maybe there's a link in the chat as well. If you hit that, it'll take you straight over to the uniform guide. We do have a uniform. It's pretty low key. We're not a micromanaged type of a campus at all. And so I feel like we've kind of got it pretty, scaled down a little bit. Drop off pickup policies. And so drop off for us, school starts at 8 o'clock. So drop off in the morning starts at 7:30. Pickup ends at 4 o'clock. We do have policies we were on again, being very respectful of what does that card line look like in case anybody is going, what about card line? Trust me, my campus gets it. No one likes long card lines. So trust me, if anybody wants a short card line, it is me and my team. I don't appreciate picking up a phone and getting chewed out by somebody that didn't like the card link time. Nobody does that on purpose. Certainly not me. And so trust me when I say, look, I get the card line. And so we're going to be as common sense, as sharp, as creative as we can. You know, is it okay to say that day 1 is going to be a little bit longer than day 30? So that's probably going to be a reality for us. The beautiful thing is this: if you've seen our campus, we have a nice long front of our building. That's nothing but great surface area for pickup and drop off. And so we're very excited about that. If you've seen the campus, the front is nice and long. We have a driveway that goes around. We can get in and out pretty quick. We have an entrance off of 287, the 81 side road there. We have an entrance and an exit off of Harmon. So we have a campus that's very conducive. And we also have probably the best ops team in Texas. So I can assure you the creativity necessary to make sure that car line is as efficient and quick as possible is going to be there. But my promise to you is I don't like getting chewed out from a parent because they don't like car line. And that's a promise. There's a lot of other things I'd rather do than get chewed out because they don't like waiting in car line. So I don't do it because I enjoy it, is my point. There will be lockers. The lockers are built in, so you don't have to have a lock with you. The lockers are built in. They have a lock in there. They'll have a combination. Do not worry. My team and I will be in the hallways. Faculty will be there to talk about 2 to the left, 1 to the right. Now hit the 5. Now pop it open. I get the 7th graders going, I think probably if we're honest, with my 5, I was like, look, when you're in middle school, if you're breathing oxygen and you're walking vertical, you're already pretty good. So I get that a 7th grader's going, it's 2 this way, 1 this way. I think I did it. It won't open. Mr. Mullins, what do I do? We're going to be there. As soon as they get the hang of it, they'll do it 3 times and they'll realize, oh, it's kind of nuanced. So it does have locks. They are built into the locker. You don't have to provide those. We will help that student. We'll help the scholars. First couple of days, we'll be up there. It's not Thunderdome. It's a supportive environment. My faculty are there. We're here to support. We're here to help. Again, when I say we love families, I'm literally dead serious about we want to make sure that families are healthy. Most of us, you have kids. I totally get it. I've got 5. Sometimes life is hard enough without having to go, my kid come home crying or something because of the locker. I'm like, holy smokes, and can someone help me out? For God's sake, I get it. And so we want to make sure that we're a support piece as much as possible, whatever that looks like. And so I can assure you the hallways in that middle school, it's not Thunderdome. We have supervision. We have people in there. It's not just going nuts. There's order to how we do things. We have assistants. We have supervision. What can we help with? How you doing? Do you know where you're going? Let me help you with this. And so the support's going to be there. You're not going to be just turning your 6th or 7th grader loose and going, good luck. And so by the time your 6th grader gets upstairs, I can about guarantee you they will have heard good morning, welcome, probably 6 different times from an adult. And if you don't believe me, come through one of our car lines right now. I can about guarantee you before that 3rd grader gets back to that classroom right now, tomorrow, they'll have 5 to 6 adults saying, good morning, welcome, sir. Good welcome, ma'am. Good welcome, welcome, Mr. Miller. Good welcome. So it'll be the same with 6th or 8th grade. And so they're going to be a respectful environment, a supportive environment, an environment where it's okay to struggle because the support pieces are there to do that. And that's one of the best places to learn how to do that. Will there be lockers? Dave, I got 1 or 2 more. Maybe I'm hitting an hour now. What are you thinking?
To be honest, I think the best way to approach this is give everyone the freedom if they'd like to hop off as we teeter towards that hour, but continue to answer these questions. If that's okay with you, boss. I got all night with you, boss.
Yeah, no, we can be here all day.
Okay.
I generally have quite a bit of energy, so I don't know if you guys want to stay here till 9:30 tonight. I've got it in me. I don't have a whole lot of skills. God blessed me with a lot of energy, and so you're gonna have. It's gonna be pretty hard pressed to outwork Ryan Mullins. I can just guarantee you that. So we'll go ahead and keep going through the list, and so transitions. Oh, okay, so transitions. That's great. So yes, we do have transitions. Classes are about 55 minutes long, 5-minute passing period. The sections aren't always going to be with the same group of students. For example, you have, we start off, for example, with 2 sections of 7th grade. In 5 years, that's going to be 5 sections of 7th grade. So just because I had this same 25 students in Lit Comp doesn't mean I'm going to be in the same Latin class with the same 25, if that makes sense. Schedules are dynamic is how that's going to look. So they're not going to be with the same 25 every single class period. Okay. And so, and some of that kind of depends on if someone needs a schedule tweaked, because we can do that as well. If we got to tweak a schedule, we do those types of things. And so you're not going to be with the same 25 students from every class to the next one. You're in Latin 1, you have 25 students, you go to Lit Comp the next period, it might be a few different ones, some new, some not. So it's not going to be with the same group of students. Bathroom policies with that to the restroom. You can go to the restroom during our classes. Obviously, what we tell them is, we're here in class for 55 minutes. Generally, if it's something you really need to do, then go to the restroom. And so it's one at a time, of course. 3 students can't walk out and go to the restroom. It's going to be one at a time. But generally, we tell them if it's something that needs to take place, then go ahead and do that. To be honest with you, when I would have orientation with my 6th through 12th graders, I would tell them, if my 45-year-old history teacher can go through 55 minutes without having to go to the restroom, generally, unless there's an issue somewhere down the road, I feel like it's safe to assume a 13-year-old can. Now, again, I realize that that's not, there's certain situations, and we want to make sure they have the freedom to do that. But I don't feel like that Johnny needs to go to the bathroom in the middle of every single class, every single period. And so there's that. To transition, what happens if you have trips during the middle of school? What's that going to look like? Yes, again, we're really here about supporting families. I tell families, and this can kind of sometimes be, you don't see a lot of schools that say this. I tell families, and I've done this for years, they come in and say, man, we got a great deal on a trip to ski in Colorado. It's right there, man. It's in January. We have to miss a full week of school. We're nervous about it. What about classes? I tell them it's a no-brainer. Go on the trip. So those trips, that time with your family is essential. Time with your kids is essential. We'll be fine getting your student caught up to speed on schoolwork. Usually it works kind of like this. It's a combination of I get some stuff before and I get some stuff after. Because my teachers are going to write lesson plans for 10 days down the road. But as any teacher knows, if I write them too far down the road, it's not going to be very useful because my lesson plans change in a week. I have what I want to have covered, but if the students aren't with me, you can't move on, right? And so we have this beautiful idea, teachers, this is just how we're wired. We have this beautiful idea that every lesson we give is this beautiful piece of rhetorical, amazing skills where it's spellbound and the 7th grade boy and girl is locked in and picking up what we're putting down and we're moving at a quick pace and all the CFUs and the feedback's there and it's a beautiful, magical experience. And on the way out, they're giving the teacher a hug saying it's one of the most magical, life-changing lessons ever. But sometimes you just have a lesson. It's just not a good day. Sometimes you're off. Sometimes you mix some concepts up. You have questions, and now so now I'm behind. And so when you go on that trip, it'll be a combination of, hey, here's a few things to take with you beforehand. But we don't want them sitting there on the trip doing homework all day either. I usually tell them, go on your trip, come back. Don't worry, we'll get you caught up. Now, there's always the practicality, right? Of okay, if I miss a week of work. I know what your work is like. If I'm out of this office for a week and I come back, I have 595 emails, 19 billion messages, and a whole bunch of meetings stacked up waiting for me. In other words, I'm not getting home at 5:30 for quite some time. That's just the reality of, hey, I went to take a trip to Colorado. Now I've got to catch up. So as long as you realize that there's going to be a little bit of a catch up, not overwhelming. I tell them, don't be overwhelmed. Don't cry. Don't be up in your room going, oh my gosh, I'm never. Take your time. We'll get you caught up. We are on your side. And so the support will be there to make sure you get caught up. I tell them, go on the trip. It's a no-brainer. Just tell the teacher, hey, we're going to be gone. We're going skiing in Colorado. We'll say blessings. Have a great time. We'll see you when you get back. And don't worry, we'll get you caught up. You'll be perfectly fine. Let's keep going. It's probably a long answer to a very short question. To the bathroom policies, we already addressed that. To middle schoolers have recess, they do not have a recess, and so we have about 35 minutes for lunch. For us, middle school is 6th through 8th grade. And so K through 5th grade, we do have recess, 2 per day still. In middle school, we do not. We do have PE. That'll be every day. Again, we have our passing periods, and we have 35-minute lunch where they can sit, relax, have conversations with their friends. There's a social atmosphere to that as well. Eat their food, and then we kind of get back to work. Can they bring erasable pens, pencils, da 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 da? So each teacher will have some in their syllabi. They'll have some things, for example, like, hey, formal essays need to be done in black ink, stuff like that. At the end of the day, our policy is if you want to take your personal notes in a pencil, then take them in a pencil. If you want to take them in a blue ink pen, take them in a blue ink pen. And so let your system be your system as a young person, right? And so the stipulation we have as far as writing utensils is simply what does that formal work that you're turning in look like? A teacher might say, well, for example, in Algebra 1, we prefer you do things in pencil. There's a reason for that. Generally in algebra, you're going to have to erase stuff. It's nice to do it in pencil because pen makes it kind of tough. And even though they call them erasable pens, I don't know about you, they're really not erasable. You got this messy shadow going on. You tear your paper apart. Now you got this piece of work that doesn't look very nice. We don't want to get in the habit of that type of work. So generally speaking, it's use what your notes when you annotate in your text. Use what you want to use. But if there are specific requirements, again, my faculty will definitely take care of your young person day one. They're going to know, where am I at? What am I doing? How do I do this? What are your expectations of me? What can I expect from you? Consistency, 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 consistency. It's all going to be there. Okay. So a lot of that's going to be day one. They'll go through that syllabi and talk about, hey, here's how this class operates. Okay. And so again, making sure students know what's expected of them, communication. We're here to help, not here to add extra stress. Realizing, of course, that a 7th grader coming into a brand new school is going to have a little bit of stress. I can't alleviate all of it, right? I don't know about you. I started a new school in 9th grade. There's nothing my parents could have done to make me less stressful first day of school. It would have been nice to have a little bit some more support when I walk through the hallways, though. That's just me. So we're going to have that there in place. Let's go to the back side. Will parents be told what homework is? Again, homework, things like that. We're going to try to get that in the portal. I think we can get that parent portal. I just don't want to promise it yet because I haven't been given the full green light from that standpoint. Let's see what else. Dave, do we have 1 or 2 in the chat that you want me to hit for sure?
I do have a couple. I have been answering them in the chat as well as they come up.
Okay. Do you want me to answer something? Are you good? Are we good to kind of finish up? It's an hour and 10 minutes.
I've got a couple.
Okay.
I think it's worth finishing the list, and then I can offer a couple to you if that's okay.
Yeah. So how we retain good teachers? What about teachers leaving mid-year? Again, what are human being kind of decisions adults make in their life? I can't do that. What I do is try to create the type of environment. Again, the reason the way that we attack the strategy of faculty, again, it comes back to the vision that we sell at the very beginning, right? And so generally speaking, when you're selling that type of vision, I always tell the faculty when I hire them, if it's mid-season or whatever, and they're like, yeah, this isn't quite what I expected. To be honest with you, some of that's probably that's on me because I didn't communicate to this teacher, hey, here's how it's going to work at this campus. And so I try to over communicate that through the interview process because I never like a faculty to sit down with me at any point and say, boy, I wasn't ready for that. You're kind of a hard guy to work with, or there's really a lot of demands on what you expect from us, or I didn't know you really meant you were going to be in the classroom every single week, or I didn't know you were going to expect. So I never want a faculty member to say, boy, I wasn't ready for that. So I really do try to over communicate without scaring them off, of course, that we're very serious about our work. But I also tell them we're serious about our work, but we also love to horse around. Again, if you probably come to, we wanted an atmosphere, right, that's enjoyable. Same thing with students, right? And there's probably a better way to say horse around. I'm not sure. Oklahoma, we just horse around sometimes. So I don't, maybe that's not the best. You probably don't want to go to a hallway full of 8th grade boys and say, hey, it's okay to horse around sometimes. That's probably not the best language to use. But we tell our faculty, there needs to be joy. You need to love what you do. For students, it needs to be the same thing. Not that it won't be hard, because anything in life that's worth having, great things in life are going to be hard. And I'm sure every parent sitting on this call totally understands and gets that. Great things that are worth working for are certainly worth that. But there should be some joy in the process, right? Just like you guys enjoy your jobs, enjoy where you go to work. There should be a joy in that. So we do tell our faculty, hey, there's times for us to horse around and have a good time. We want that same type of spirit in the hallways with our students. Hey, it's okay to horse around. Now, horse around isn't let's do piggyback races down the hallway, right? In the middle of Latin class. That's not what we want. So we also talk about the appropriate timing of things. It's not always appropriate for the faculty for us to be in horse around mode. Sometimes it is. But sometimes it's okay too to have fun at school and to enjoy the experience and to be appreciative of some of the things we do. And so we definitely want to develop a culture where it's an enjoyable one, right? We're certainly aware of in classical liberal arts schools, sometimes that can be a little bit of we don't want an overbearing environment. We want students that when they graduate reflect, yes, on the great content and the great faculty. We also want them to be able to go back and say, you know what, it was a really enjoyable experience. It wasn't the easiest thing I ever did, but it was absolutely one of the most enjoyable. And now I'm taking that and going on to that next stage of life, shaped and sculpted and a better human being because of it. And I want parents to say, not that we became parents for them, but that we couldn't have asked for a better school to support our family. And that's really the greatest compliment that us as a school gets. Isn't that we became something we were not, but for a parent to come back and say, while they're sobbing at 12th grade graduation, to say, I remember sitting on a Zoom call and it was a tough decision and we totally get that. We couldn't have made a better choice for our family because we were supported 110% of the way. And that's really that's where my faculty, that's where our team and I, we're high-fiving going, see, this is what we're talking about. How do we support and love our families, right? And so retaining good teachers is really about communicating that vision over and over and over. How do you help scholars be successful with the workload? Again, it comes back to the types of faculty and how we train them. Literally, that is the trump card. I know sometimes it's very easy to look at a reading list. It's very easy to go, so we all take calculus. It's very easy to say, we all take physics. And go, oh my gosh, the content. The content is really good. There's two prongs to this great thing we call Prairie View, right? Great content, yes, but it has to have great instruction with it, right? We have to be great as teachers. And so the real trump card is not the content, even though a lot of times it's easy to go to the content. I think probably because it's like a hard science, right? The content's kind of hard science. Whereas teaching is kind of like a soft skill set, right? It's a soft art. But the trump card on, how do we take care of this rich, robust, great curriculum that our students are going to engage in? The key is the faculty member. The key is what kind of support is at the school environment. The key is how is my student being supported to help them grasp the skills they need to be successful in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. And so the real key to all of that is how do we train our teachers? How do we train our faculty? And you're certainly, I tell parents, any parent, you can't just walk through the school. We have safety devices. The new campus has a safety vestibule. You have to check in. But if you wanted to come to our campus right now, check in, get your soft background check, get a sticker, and go check out what does training look like for these guys? What does it look like in the classroom? You're more than welcome. Next year, when you're scholars at our school, it's the same thing. You want to see, it's not like parents can never come in. I tell parents, look, go through the background check. Now, you'll have someone with you. I'm not giving you the keys to the building, right? A dean will be with you, an assistant head school, myself, somebody will be with you. But it's not like don't go in here. It'll be like, okay, what do you want to see? So there's nothing that we're hiding. There's nothing that you can't see. If you want to go look and see what's taking place in a classroom, just come through the door and say, hey, I'd love to see a class. Can I go in one? And we'll find someone to show you around. We get your background check, off you go. And so we're certainly not worried about that at all. And so the support is really the most important piece. Okay. How we'll address students come in pre-algebra, 8th grade. Yeah, so when you talk about like pre-algebra, algebra 1, so then there's these nuances, right? What about Latin 2? What, most students haven't even had Latin 1. And so this kind of gets to where you have where I talk to parents sometimes. So again, we start with the baseline to make sure everybody's with us. But if everybody, and it's not just this year, next year will be the same way until we get about 3 to 4 years of traction. If an 8th grader needs to be in pre-algebra first, it's okay, right? It's always, again, I've had this message for decades with parents. The most important thing is not you're in a classroom with 8th graders. The most important thing is, am I in a classroom where I can get the fundamental skills and the support to be successful going forward? That's the most important piece. It's pretty hard to be successful in Calculus 1 if I've never had algebra. You might be the smartest person in the world. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm not the dumbest. But if you said, hey, can you do brain surgery on me tomorrow night? We're going to have a problem. It's not because I'm not smart. It's just that I have not been trained. I have no skills in brain surgery. It doesn't mean I'm not smart. It doesn't mean I'm not a nice guy. It doesn't mean I can't do it. I haven't had 8 years of what's inside your brain anyway. And you probably don't want me cracking open and look inside. It has nothing to do with smart intelligence or anything. It just has to do with, look, there's some skills that we have to have before we move forward. So if you have to be in a pre-algebra class, it's okay. Okay. And so we edit that a little bit if we have to. Sometimes it's not necessary. A lot of times it's not necessary. If we have to edit, look, we'll find a way to make it work. Okay. We'll find a way to make it work. The most important thing for us is, how do we get your student the skills to move forward to be successful going into 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade? Because that's really the most important piece. Okay. All right, I think that kills my list here. So I'm going to go ahead. I think we wanted to keep it an hour. It's like an hour and a half. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to the office. You can call Krista at the front desk, shoot an email, anything like that, reach out. We're more than happy to continue to answer questions. We have a lot of I know Morgan has a lot of parent engagement activities coming up over the next 6 to 7 weeks. That's going to be in your inbox coming up, where you have a chance to meet with the team, things of that nature, things of that kind of that caliber. If you have any questions, want to talk some more, I'm more than happy to sit down and talk, things like that. And so it's a busy time of year, but we're certainly willing to make that work. So I appreciate everybody's time tonight. I hope it's been informative. I hope I haven't talked too fast. And it's been a good experience for you. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. I'll let you go about the rest of your evenings. Team, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate y'all's time on a Thursday. Parents, have a great one, and we'll see you later.